Welcome everyone to our first session of Cocktails and Conversation by Hosted. It is my absolute pleasure to be your host, Alexis Moore, self-proclaimed principal vibe creator and curator of community. I am so excited to be with you all today, kicking off this session. So what is Hosted? Hosted, we are nothing but a collection of people who reinforce principles of community building through intentional hosting, one gathering at a time. So whether it's your first time hosting or if you have been hosting your whole entire life, our goal is to be able to provide you with some tips, tricks to make your hosting experience super easy, super fun the next time you're able to gather together with your friends and your family. That's Hosted. Wanted to jump into a little bit about cocktails and conversations. We all know that 2020 has thrown us for a loop. Take a deep breath. It has thrown us for a loop and it has changed the way we gather a little bit. But we are reclaiming happy hour by connecting virtually. And I am excited that over the next couple of weeks, sitting down with some really dear friends in the industry to talk about community building, dreaming about what it's like to gather again in person, and then hopefully sharing some tips and honestly, just good old conversation. So this very, very first session, I could not think of a better person to be able to share this moment with. You all know him. You're familiar with him. He's partnered with Hosted before. Chef Dell. Welcome, brother. How you doing? How you doing?
Doing good.
Good. I'm so glad that you were able to join us for our session.
Me too.
Now, Chef Dell has been taking the culinary world by storm, and I could not be more proud of what you're doing, not only in the kitchen, but in the classroom. So thank you for your contributions in those areas. Now, it would not be cocktails and conversation without a cocktail.
Without a cocktail.
We're not gonna make this easy on you, right? It's not just gonna be all questions. I need you to tell us, what are you drinking, sir?
Yes, so this is the Mod Haven.
Oh, okay.
The history behind Mod Haven is very, 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 very brief. This was just created today during my lunch break while I was at work.
At work, okay.
I was at work, and I feel like I'm one of those people who come up with the greatest ideas at the 11th hour. So this came to me very last minute, and I was just like, what can I do? Because this is important, right? I'm the headliner. I'm not gonna bring you, some old corny. No. I had to set the bar.
And
so
Chef
if you are
Dell
familiar with Sanpellegrino, you know that they have some of the greatest flavors.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using Pompelmo. So my drink is called the Mod Haven, and it's a mixture of Pompelmo, Sanpellegrino, and Jose Cuervo Gold Rum. I'm sorry, tequila. Excuse me. I'm not a bartender. I'm not in any way. I do not consider myself to be a bartender. So if any bartenders are watching, do not hold me to anything that I'm
judgment.
saying.
This is a safe space.
I don't know. Yes, safe space. Yes. So as far as like measurements, it was half the can.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the little personal bottles of tequila. So I don't know how much that is. That's
the perfect
It was the perfect amount. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. It was just sitting in my freezer, and I was just like, yes. So that is what the Mod Haven is made of.
Mod Haven.
So the Mod Haven, so that name is actually the neighborhood in which I live.
Awesome.
Right? So I just thought that was very cool. It's very sweet. You get a little tang from the carbonation of the flavored water, but other than that, it's the grapefruit juice, and it's just so good. And then I finished it off with like a splash of lime juice, and gave it a little garnish. And here we go, the Mod Haven.
I love that. That is something that anybody can make at the end of a day.
Right? It's quick. It was super quick.
Refreshing.
It is refreshing, and we going back to school soon, and I'm like, I don't even know how to feel about it, but we'll talk about that later.
You keep a lot of Pellegrinos in the loop.
Absolutely. What are you drinking?
I went to my signature go-to in the shameless plug
Love
my
that.
gold stainless steel tumbler in
Love
the
it.
Black Girl Magic hosted gift set. It is
Oh, look at
actually,
that.
I'm a fan of rum, so it is my
Okay.
take on a Bahama Mama.
Okay.
Malibu rum, orange juice, a little bit of pineapple juice, cranberry juice, a splash of triple sec, and grenadine. And it is by no means, it sounds like it's a lot of ingredients. It's just literally just a splash, splash, splash.
But she just put my haven to shame.
No. It's not about the number of ingredients.
See, I'm so glad you said that. I have to get out of that mindset. I'm gonna, that was a gem. I know gems probably happen later, but I'm gonna hold on to that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hold on to it. But hopefully those out there remember the My Haven. So
somebody might have to write me a check. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Their name's Sanpellegrino.
Right. Thank you.
Sanpellegrino. Chef Dell.
My next brunch, I'm definitely gonna use that, just so everybody knows.
You and me both.
Okay.
You and me both. And Sanpellegrino is one of my favorite drinks. So Chef Dell, you just taught us how to make a drink.
I did.
You flipped it up. You were creative. Tell us a little bit about your journey, because you've used those same skills to have your journey towards this culinary world. Tell us a little bit about how you got there.
Yeah. So funny. It's funny. Whenever I tell this story, it just solidifies for me, and it makes me feel so good to know that I have a story now, right? Like I have a story to tell people, and it's just so great. So the culinary story is it started off as a chore, right? Like cooking was never something that I saw myself doing as a career. Since a kid, I had always known that I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to work in education. Sorry, my dog hears things.
We love Kirby.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, so cooking for me in my early years, it was a chore, right? Like I had two younger siblings, and for those of you who don't know, me and Alexis grew up on the same street,
same
block, right?
Yep.
So that time, that moment in time, you know, it wasn't like, you know, my mom had me, you know, acting like Cinderella, but there would be nights when, you know, she would be like, hey, you know, take the chicken out of the freezer. You know, I had that kind of mom, you know, working class family. Yeah. And she would tell me to take it out, but then she wouldn't tell me what to do with it. And so I would just be like, okay, so what now? Right? So the chicken would be ready to cook, and so that's how it started. So I figured things out, and it was just like, what do you remember seeing her do when she would thinking about the little things that just thinking of the small connections that I had to food, starting this catering company with my current partner, it was just like a reintroduction to that world, and it was just I just remembered just like how great it was just to be around people, participating in, you know, good conversation, and like, because like when you're eating, it's just something about like the atmosphere, it automatically just like things happen, right? Like you can have so many different conversations over food, right? Yeah. And then like that's what I became attracted to. So the catering company that we started was very short-lived. I think it lasted for like a year and a half, maybe. But I wanted to continue. I kind of felt something inside of me. It was just like, no, you gotta keep at this, right? Like like this is making you feel different, right? Like you love teaching, but when you do this, like this is something that this is a different emotion for you. Tap into that, right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and I was just like, I have to keep this going. I do not want this to stop. So I branched out. I came up with a name. So I came out with Dell Glover Catering and Events, and I just remember what that process was like, right? Like, 'cause that was 2 years ago, and now that I think back, I remember like sending my friends like the artwork to the logo and saying like, hey, like this is what I'm thinking, and they just being like, oh my God, that looks so good, right? And like just like going through that whole process, and now here we are. So yeah, that's Chef Dell's in a nutshell. You know, that's the best way that I can explain the journey.
That's an amazing journey, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know, your experiences. I know you kind of you talked about that your journey took you to a number of different industries, right?
Yeah.
I am a fan of collecting talent, skills, and experiences from different industries, because you never know how you're going to leverage that when you're able to do your passion work, right? And so,
Absolutely.
you know, it's cooking is education. Cooking, you talked about the architecture background.
Yeah.
Structuring a meal and how you plate, you know, all these things all come together. There's your story. Like when people say, oh, you know, I'm trying to make sense of how I got from here to here to here to here. It's the times where we have to take time to understand our own story and why those experiences make sense for us and for where we are in life. And I think, you know, you talked about how bringing people together with food and having, you know, conversations and the magic that happens at a dinner table. To me, the dinner table is a really sacred space, right?
Because like even when I think about, right, like when you think about media, this is made up, right? A movie scene, right? This is, you know, somebody made this up. Or like when you think about like a dinner scene, and like it could be a very dramatic scene, and like there's food on the table, something might be going on over there, but people are still eating, right? People are still engaging, and they're like in some way, whatever. That was just it just popped into my brain, but it's just like that's what happens when there's, and not just, I don't want to just say food, right? Good food. Good food has to be present, right? And like I say that because just being on this journey and like seeing the growth and like the elevation and like the response from the public, it's something that I feed off of, because like without people, like my work is pointless, right? Like what I do when it comes to feeding people, it's like this is what I do, right? So in any opportunity that I have to do that, I always go above and beyond, even if it's basic, right? It could be the smallest thing, right? Like my boyfriend tells me all the time, like if I make eggs, they're never just normal eggs. Like there's always like chives on it or some type of sauce drizzles on, right? It's just like nothing is ever done, you know, now just regularly, because I'm always in creative mode. Always.
And you're cooking with passion, you know, like you're not making any basic dishes.
I try not to.
Because I feel like that's a love language, right? Like it's a love language when you can cook a meal, and that shows. I like to say that when my husband, he'll say like, you know, like you love to cook, and I was like, I do love to cook. It's how I show my love for the people that I cook for, you know. And so I think that it is it's a way to express to people how you care for them. Now I know that you've kind of taken the I don't want to say, you're not just cooking, right? You're using your craft to bring people together. So tell us a little bit about Dishing with Dell, and who are you inviting to the table?
Yeah. So Dishing with Dell, again, stepping into my early 30s, I just started thinking about like you have something that you can offer. How can you do this, right? Like how can you, like, what is it that you can do that you get to do two things out of the many things that you love, which is being around people. Well, three things: being around people, cooking, and eating, right? Because I also love to eat the things that I make, right? How can you do that on on a semi-large scale. And it was just like, you know, this internet thing is taking over, right? Like,
absolutely,
everything is literally on the internet. There's nothing that you can probably think of right now that somebody else has not, right, seen, heard, whatever. So it was just like, this is how you, right, like, start a web series. And like, I had ideas of like other web series, but this one made sense. It was just like, you get to cook for people, right? People that normally probably would never, you know, have the opportunity to eat your food, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to sit down with them, and then you get to incorporate another element to the things that you love, which is the core, right? I just like table settings just make me happy, right?
Yeah.
Just like seeing like everything being like symmetric and like identical, and so just like I love it. So it was just like, yeah, so you can do this, right? So you can cook for people, you can create a table, right? Create like table design. You can interact with people. You can sit at a table. You can talk, and you can talk about whatever you want. So it was just like, that's amazing. I'm gonna do that, and I did that.
And you did that.
And it's been amazing. So I just shot episode 2, and what's even better about that is, it's just like that. It's just like that saying, you know, that when one door opens, right? So from Dishing with Dell and like posting my content on social media, I was contacted by this guy out in LA who decided that he wanted to create a media tech company and start a platform for people of color to have their own cooking channel.
Awesome.
And I was like, that's incredible. So created a network for Black chefs to showcase their shows. And I was just like, wow. And so I've managed to now become a part of the conversation, right? So like when people are talking about good food, my name comes up, and it's just like, oh, it's different for me, right? It feels good, right? So yeah, it's a blessing, and like I'm just taking it all in.
That is a blessing. It's absolute blessing. I think, you know, if there is one thing that can transcend any type of ethnicity, culture, heritage, generations, it's food, right? We can all connect over food. And I think that's what you're doing with Dishing with Dell. You're connecting over food. Food is a tool or a mechanism to bring people to the table. And then the topics and conversations that you're having are very pertinent to this day and age, right? So what are some of the topics you guys are talking about on Dishing with Dell? If you can tell us a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the first episode, I kicked it off with education, right? So I gathered a bunch of my educator friends, and we talked about what that life was like for us. Because I think a lot of people, when they see us, like some people get it, right? Like some people see us and they understand, but the life of an educator is heavy, right? Like we go through so many things, especially being an educator of color, right? Like it just, we kind of have like a front row seat to the trauma that comes into the classroom, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we are the ones, people of color especially, we are the ones who see, the struggle up close. So when we get into these spaces, we're taking this stuff serious, right? And like some of us aren't being recognized for it, and some of us are not being treated with the common decency. And like this goes to teacher salary, right? Like so many elements, right, that we can discuss. But yeah, so we talked about that. That was great. The last one that I shot, it was about fashion. It was a fun topic, which is being Black in the industry and like what that world is like, because again, another industry where people of color are not recognized for the contribution, right? So I think doing this and like shedding light on those areas, and yeah, other people have talked about this, but were you talking about this over mimosas though, right? Was there a camera present, right? Were you speaking from a space of experience, and like it's a safe space, and like people, the conversation went in so many other different directions that I had to like cut out, but nonetheless, it was like this atmosphere that I've created has become the hub for authentic conversation, and it just feels so good.
And I think that's something that I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like we kind of need that. We need to get back to having these very authentic, relevant conversations with our peers. I think whether if you want to talk about the current state of our world, there's a lot of things that are just really heavy. And, when there is opportunity to be able to share experiences and talk through those experiences, and to be able to support one another, I think that the dinner table is such a powerful tool when we use it to really like check into our communities, right? I think you can define community a number of different ways, whether it is a community that's based in culture, or whether it's a community that is people that have the shared interest, whether it be your career or different type of social groups. But bringing people to the table and inviting them in to have these authentic conversations, I think it only it creates a really intimate space.
Yeah.
For people to be vulnerable in a safe space, right? That's the thing. A safe space is
I'm so glad you said that, because my next episode is education during the pandemic, and I'm going to be actually talking to my students.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So right. So like that's another thing too, right? Like this. I don't want to be the voice. Like, I want other people to be the voice of Dishing with Dell, right? Like, I'm bringing you the food aspect, right? I'm giving you the dish to dish over, right?
Yeah.
So I want you guys to create the dialogue, and I just think having my kids, and like I wish I could have every single one of them come, but it's too many. So I'm gonna do a good handful. And just talk to them about their thoughts and like their feelings and emotions about this thing that just took over, right? And like set all of us back, students, staff alike. And like, I just want to hear from them. And recently, it's been a week now, we lost one of our students, right? So like, imagine losing a classmate during a pandemic, right? It was just a lot. Yeah. So I want to give them the opportunity to talk about that, right? To eat something good and like feel comfortable, and like this is probably an experience that they probably have never had before. So like that's also opening them up to something else. And I'm really excited about that episode. I swear, like I'm going to be a madman just making sure that everything is perfect for that one, because like that one is going to mean so much to me, because like hearing their voices and being able to connect with them on that level is just gonna be so great. And like and then for other people to see that and to be inspired by that, I think that's what I'm really hoping for.
Okay. One, please accept our condolences for the student that you did lose. Our hearts and prayers go out to you for that. I think you mentioned something that was really, really important that I think folks may be intimidated by when they consider hosting and hosting a dinner party like that. You said something really, really, really pertinent to, I know folks are like, why do you call yourself a vibe creator? Because really, like, the job of a host is not you don't have to plan everything down to the T. It's about creating the platform, right?
Yeah.
You create the platform, create the environment, ensure that the dynamic is right, that the vibe is right, that people feel comfortable showing up authentically, right? So that they can share their stories. And when you are cognizant of that, then everything else will happen, right? You have to leave room for the magic to happen and for people to be able to contribute to that vibe. Like, we can't be so caught up in controlling an event that we control it so much that like this magic doesn't happen. And hearing your students' voices being able to weigh in on something that I think we've heard a lot of perspectives on, you know, whether it be parents thinking about giving their thoughts about the remote environment. It could have been teachers talking about it, but when have we really heard the students' perspective, or given them the ability to be able to be thoughtful about their perspective and to process that? I think it's going to be a really powerful experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to tuning in to see it. So continue to be a vibe creator in that way, because just set the table. Set the table.
Yeah.
Let build. If you build it, they'll come.
And that's what's been happening. And like just to piggyback off of what you were saying about like people like in their intimidation around that. I don't think it's, if you are somebody who, because I feel like I thrive off energy, right? Like,
yeah,
if I'm around good people, I just feel good, and I just feel like we're living in times, and like not just in terms of the pandemic, just in general, right? Like we as people, for me, it just brings me so much joy. It's just be around people and like have a good time, right? Yeah. So when that idea comes to you, do it. Expand on that idea, right? And like have fun, right? Because that's the overall goal. And like not only that, like people gonna be talking about you for weeks. Oh my God, Alexis threw this party and it was just right. Like I don't know, like people just feel good when they're around good energy, good food, good music. If you want, like whatever, just making sure that you just stay connected to people, because like the pandemic showed me that you need 100%, you need human interaction. Yeah. Right? So like not be around people, I was just like, I was losing it. I was just like, this is
now,
not.
Are you an extrovert?
I'm not. Well, yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay.
I am. I'm always like the life of the party. I'm always the one to start dancing first. I'm always the one that, right? Like, and if I'm around other people that are like that, it just makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. So I'll say this now. I'm a highly introverted person. So, but like, how do you like to host people and you're highly introverted? I display extrovert tendencies when necessary, and usually after an event, I am drained. Like I give you everything I got, genuinely and authentically in that moment. But I have to kind of pull back and be able to recharge for the next interaction. So when the pandemic hit and social distancing happened, I was like, oh, I have trained my entire life for this moment, for quarantine, right? But then there comes a time, like even the most introverted person, you start to crave that interpersonal interaction, right? Because as humans, we were not meant to live in isolation. And I think that, over time, through different mechanisms, we may have, convinced ourselves that we could live these kind of isolated lives and, almost superficially check in with people on social media, but never really like talking to them, But thinking about like the core of us, like we were meant to have that connection and to feed off of one another and to feed off that energy. So like, what happens when that's taken away? And then there's traumatic events happening too. Like it makes for a really, really tough, a tough time. And, a lot.
It was a lot.
Still is a lot.
Like every day there was something else. And I was just like, right? And it was just like, oh man, I don't, like, this is probably the first time that I have ever really did like self-work. Cause like it was just like, you have to like, when the outside world is like going haywire, like you have to be intact, right? So like your energy has to be right. Like it was just a lot. So,
and you have to process. And I think, you know, what's a healthy way to process is talking it out and having these conversations. And like, when you can have it over bomb food, you know, like, why not? Why not do that? But I think, you know, it's kind of goes to, like, cooking is not just a talent, it's a gift. And it's a gift that we give because we take away the physical need for food, right? And we make it a tool versus just, did you eat 3 times a day? Like, yes, I did. But like, let's enjoy this together. And let's, I personally think when there is a good meal, it allows people to, it allows their barriers to come down a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I think about you, I think about your party, right? And like just the energy. I was just like, this is good energy here, right? Like,
Eat off
I don't, it was amazing. Yeah, I can relive that day every day.
I relive it all the time. I watch the videos all the time. You out there in hosting land, you guys will probably be reliving it too, because we playing videos on.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a question. Do you think that there's a difference between entertainment and hospitality?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it.
So when I think of entertaining, I like to entertain, and I say this because when I think of entertainment, I think of laughter. I think of, you know, late night. I think of food, obviously, right? And like I can do that. Like right now, I could call like 5 people and say, "Hey, like I'm about to cook. You know, come over. I'm gonna entertain you." Right? But when it comes to hospitality, you think of strategy. It's like when this person walks into this space, I want that. It's almost like when you go to a resort and you walk into the room and like, we don't live like this every day, right? I don't come home to my towels folded like swans every day, or like bath soap wrapped around and, you know, wrapped in ribbons and, you know, stuff like that. Like I don't live like that, so I don't.
You don't live like that?
I don't live like
you don't live like that?
Not yet anyway. Not yet. But that's what I think about when I think of hospitality. I think of just creative ways to make you feel at home, even when you're not.
Yeah.
Right? Even when you're not. I can entertain you anywhere, right? But are you gonna feel like you're at home though? Right? So I think that's the difference. And like what I do and what you do is very much connected. Oh my God,
yeah.
It's very much connected. But there is a difference, right? And I want people to really understand what the difference is.
Yeah.
Because they're like both areas require a lot of energy, right? You have to be in a space. Like I've seen some of the things that you've done, and it's just like this is the difference, and like there's a different emotion. Both of them are great feelings, and both of them are great experiences, right? I would take one over the other, like it wouldn't even matter. But but when it comes to you and what you like to do as a person, I think it's good to know the difference between the two.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head that they're both about experience. But I think it might be, when I think of hospitality and entertainment, I think the experience, who's at the center of the experience differs, right? So if I were to entertain, it's about how I experience the event for my guests. And for hospitality, it's how are my guests experiencing this moment, right? And then you were talking about the intention behind it. I think they can go hand in hand. I think hospitality has a different intention, and it's always good to be cognizant about what mode you're operating in, because like if you have, let's say you have this edition with Dell session, meal, and you really want people to open up and be authentic and create a really a space of vulnerability, you would likely operate in hospitality, right? Because you want people to feel the invitation in. You want people to feel like they are welcomed there authentically. And that's not to say that entertainment doesn't do that, but there's a different focus, right? The entertainment is a higher energy or a different energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be a higher energy, but a different energy. And I think entertainment may be aspirational in ways. And so, you know, I think I always ask that question just to see, what are you operating in this moment? Because that could also help us. It's all about like the experience. What experience are you trying to create? And I think when we talk to folks that are just starting to host, knowing the difference between the two, because I think you can go in with with an intention, but the execution may be in the different bucket, the bucket of entertainment, and you're going in with hospitality, and you're wondering why your dynamic is off. And it's like, well, you might have to switch. You might have to switch them around, but and no one is wrong. It's just when you're trying to accomplish something. I'll say that in this new phase of life and bringing people together, I am trying to create strategies around when we get together so that when people leave, my whole strategy at the end of the day, no matter what event it is that people leave feeling better, and whether it's better about themselves or about their circumstances, their environment. And I think in order to do that successfully, I have to really understand kind of what mentality I'm operating in when planning that event. So I know you talked about energy, and I'm sure you've heard the term, it's a vibe. It's a whole vibe.
It's a vibe, yes.
So what are the top, as a chef, what are the top 3 things that are important to you to create a vibe?
That's a great question. So I think, I'm gonna go through the process of what, you know, when I know that I'm about to host an event, right? So I think the top one is the dish. So like, what are you making?
Yeah.
Right? So I think that the food is like the primary part of the experience. So like, once I get that down, then I'll go to, so once I pick the meal, so like, what kind of table decor does this go with?
Yeah.
And then I'll just start thinking about that, and then I'll think about like who's coming, right? So like, you also have to kind of know the people that you're going to be dealing with. Like, this is a vibe, and it was just like, yes, right?
Yep.
You knew the kind of person that was coming. You knew what they were gonna like, what they were gonna want, and like, that's ultimately, it's not about you. It's about the other people that are going to be in attendance. And like, I think the key for me, I think I mentioned too, so it's the food, the table decor, and I will say the last part, I think I would have to say is just like what's the strategy? Like, what's the purpose, right? Knowing the purpose, when you know the purpose of something, I think it just makes it easier to execute, right? So I know the purpose when I go to work is to teach somebody something that they did not come in learning, right? If I get one person to understood what I wrote up on the board or whatever, I did my job for the day. That's fine, right? So like, that was the purpose, right? So I think knowing what you're gonna prepare, knowing what the purpose is, and like how you're gonna display it, right? How they're gonna see this. Because like, I think about like the memory, right? Like, I want people to remember what I did and like where they were when they had this, and like what it looked like, right? To be able to describe the experience, because that's ultimately what it is.
Yeah. Now that's well said from a chef. So I have another question.
Yes.
For the novice cook.
Yeah.
Who is intimidated by the kitchen? What advice would you give them?
Let the intimidation sit with you for a little while, right?
Really?
Sit with the intimidation, right? Because before you're able to move on and do something, you have to figure out why you're afraid to do it. Yeah. Right? Figure out why are you afraid to go into the kitchen and cook? Is it that you feel like what you're gonna prepare is not gonna come out and taste good, right? So if you're worried about that, there's ways around that. Use recipes. If you're not a cook, there are thousands upon thousands of recipes that you can literally pull up on your phone and do on your own. And they're great things, right? There's a recipe literally for everything. Get a recipe book. Get a cookbook. Yeah. Follow along with what somebody else did, with what somebody else took the time to show you how to do, and do it. Yeah, it's not your recipe, but this is your house. These are your friends. This is your family. And people know you to not be this great, amazing cook, and you can do something like this. Keep that energy. Keep the energy of, this may not be my area, because maybe you're a banker. Banking is what you do. Food is not what you do. Let somebody else do the work for you. That's it.
Two things to what you just said. One, I think people who are intimidated with cooking, I think that they maybe start with dishes that just are unnecessarily complicated. I think that like there is a beauty in simplicity, right? Like a super simple pasta, 3-ingredient pasta dish can wow somebody over a 15-step paella, right? Keep it simple. And then the second part you said, you were like, if it's not your gift, order out.
Let somebody else do the work for you.
Let somebody else do the work for you.
Or hire a chef.
Hire Chef Dell.
Hire me.
Hire Chef Dell.
If you don't want to do it, I will. That's fine. I'm here to help you.
I saw a quote that said, hire your weakness. And I think a lot of people feel like it makes them less of.
That's good.
I don't like to clean. So
you might want to throw that one to your daddy real quick. That was it.
Hire your weakness.
Hire your weakness. Wow.
There are people like Chef Dell who want to share their gift with you, right? So it's 100%. Like, as a host, you don't have to be you don't have to be a jack of all trades and master of none, right? Your job is, as a vibe creator, is to create the space, create the opportunity.
However you can.
Introduce the people, the talent, the skill set to be able to fulfill that vision that you have. And I think that like I remember talking with a group of folks about hosting, and there's like this misperception that like if you don't do it all, like, are you really hosting? Yes, you are. Because hosting is not about the logistics. It's about the intent. And I think like on Food Network, there was the show Semi-Homemade. If y'all don't semi-homemade these things and focus your energy on the things that are really impactful, like you don't want to fumble the food, right? But that doesn't mean that you have to like be anxiety ridden or even just let that stop you from hosting altogether.
Right.
Find the talent.
Find it.
Private chefs.
And like I was even gonna say like or like suggest, right? Like if you want this to be like, say like, I'm gonna use you as an example. You call me, you say, hey, Dell, I wanna host this dinner party, but I have no idea where to start. I come to your rescue. You can do it with me. We can do it together, right? Yep. And when the guests come, right, and we introduce each other like, hey, this is Chef Dell. We prepared this meal together, right?
And
we
learn
together. And I learned, right? 100%. There's so many different avenues you can take, and so many different ways you can be creative in the kitchen and create the experience for yourself or for other people.
Yeah. And after you've sat with that intimidation and you've realized, I can do this, I can do it with help, I can accomplish this these different ways, like, have that dinner party, share that sacred space. I think that, like, you know, breaking bread with people, like, going back to ancient times was,
that's what we did.
It's a powerful way to.
That's what we did.
It was a level of respect. Like, I mean, someone shared with me, they were like, I don't break bread with everyone, but it really showed what high regard they had for the dinner table, or when they did share a meal.
Yeah, it's a sacred space, right? And like, everybody can't come to your table, and right, and like, that's also something that you have to understand too. I think for me, and right, and like, I think about that. I think about, like, if somebody shows interest in an event and like it doesn't happen, like, this wasn't the client for you.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna stop doing this because, right, like, somebody didn't end up using my services. No.
Yeah.
Somebody else is gonna be out there and they're going to patronize me in some way, and like, it's just about the energy, and
and I think when you feel that energy, perfect example, when you did the all white birthday party for me. I think, you know, when somebody gets the energy, when somebody gets the vibe you're going for, when somebody vibes off of the people that are there, like, it permeates in the food, it permeates in the conversation, it permeates in the reception of the chef, right? Like, I mean, if I were you, like, the fact that, you know, it was almost like an entertainer was being received. They were clapping and excited for you to be able to share your gift. And I just think that that's when the client is right, you know, when the partnership is right. You get magic. And we have to be cognizant of that, and knowing that every opportunity is not always the right opportunity, but when that right opportunity is, like, you feel it. You feel it.
Yeah, and I always feel it. It's always like, I know the feeling. I've been able to experience the feeling enough to know, like, yes, this is gonna turn out great.
Yeah.
And like, it's gonna sound very, very strange, but anytime I have an event, there's always a moment of uncertainty, and I'm just like, okay, what's gonna happen this time?
Yep.
Right. And I do that, and I used to do it and get super, super anxious, but now I do it and say, okay, so if this does happen, how are you gonna recover? Right?
Yeah.
How are you gonna recover from that?
Yeah.
And I've been able to recover every single time.
Because, you know, I think that moment of uncertainty is, I'm not gonna sound preachy, I think it's us letting.
Oh, let's do it. We need it.
It's us letting the control go and letting, like, God operate in that moment, right? So, like,
that's exactly what happens.
There's only so much we can do. We have no idea what people are bringing with them. So you can prepare for a diverse group of people. And when I say diverse, I'm not talking about diversity in terms of ethnicity and gender and age, but diverse perspectives, diverse experiences. Some people come into your happy hour, might have had a great day at work. Some people might have had a horrible day at work, right? We just have to be prepared to receive whatever's coming. And the moment of uncertainty is, I think, where we let go of that control to say, you know what? This is where that magic happens. And I'm going to be open to going with where it goes. But like, when you are, I guess we'll say, yielded in that way, you recover 10 times out of 10.
You can recover from just about anything. And
which is why you shouldn't be intimidated.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I know realize at the end of the day, like when the event is over, it's just like you were doing all that worrying for nothing.
For nothing.
For nothing.
For nothing.
This is what you do. And you do this, and you did it.
I think, so there's another quote. I hope it's a gem too, that I hold on to, is that worry is a misuse of your imagination. And like when we worry about things we have no control over, we take away where we could be creative, right? Like we could be creative in the solution versus worrying about things that just probably didn't matter in the first place. So it's a misuse of our imagination. And I think that when it comes to hosting, the temptation to be like, I'll text you that. When the anxiety of hosting, it's just like, there's no need to worry because these are people that you love and care about, right? Like
exactly.
If you fumble, what's gonna happen? Are you gonna lose a friend? They weren't your friend in the first place.
So if they family, that's a different story.
That's a different story. It's a conversation, and we already established at the dinner table it's a safe space to have those conversations of, hey y'all, I didn't feel supported.
No, that is it. Yes.
I didn't feel supported when.
It's full circle. Everything always comes back full circle.
Full circle. So, Chef Dell, we've learned a lot of gems today. Yes. I am hoping that whether somebody may know how to throw down in the kitchen, that is terrified of going to the kitchen, they have learned that the dinner table, whether it's the brunch table, the dinner table, is necessary. It's necessary.
It is very necessary. Before we go, I just want to, point out. I think back to when I was young and just like the feeling when we were all at the table together, because like my household we were very divided. Which is true for a lot of other people too, right? When it came to like eating. Right, like some of us will be in our bedroom, some of us will be in the living room, and like we're not sitting down at the table, right? Like when you see things on TV, and like my understanding of what white was and what was right was like, oh, I see these people on TV, sitting together, eating together, like how come we don't do that, right? And it was just like, so I wanted to also recreate that, right? Like, yeah, we did it, right? Like I'm not gonna say we never did it. We did it. Holidays, right? Yep. Special occasions, whatever. But just to know that every day when I come home, dinner's ready at 6:30. We're all gonna eat together. We're gonna go to bed, right? It was just like it was an unrealistic,
Yep.
For me, it was unrealistic, right? It was just not.
Me as well.
It just wasn't the time in which I lived, right? That wasn't my experience. But I now can create the experience for other people.
Yep.
And that's what I do.
And you do it so well. And I am so proud of you creating these spaces to bring people together. I think, I hope that you will accept the title of community leader, vibe creator, because that's what you're doing. You're bringing people together with your talents and the things that you're passionate for and creating this space for people to show up who are authentically them. And I think that that's what I know that I identify with that from Hosted, from the core concept of Hosted. That's what we're about. Use what you got to bring people together. There is more that brings us together than separates us. We have more in common together than that separates us. So I applaud you. Keep doing what you're doing. I am so glad to hear that Chef Dell, that Dishing with Dell has been picked up on this station. Can you tell us the name of the station where people can watch it?
Yeah, so so Roku is I'm not sure if you're familiar, like smart TVs come with the app now. Yep. So it's a platform where there are like other shows that you have access to. So Roku TV, if your smart TV comes with it, there's also a little stick that you can buy to plug it into your TV, whatever works. Yep. So right now there are other shows being aired. I was a little late because, as I told you before, like I was a little skeptical of the whole process. So I started late, like, preparing my content. So I'm still in the process of submitting mine. So my project probably won't air until like late November sometime. So by then I will at least have like 3 or 4 episodes.
Well, we will be ready to binge watch. We will be ready to binge watch Dishing with Dell. We definitely wish you well with this next episode that you'll be taping. I know that it'll be an amazing experience with your students.
Thank you.
And yeah, I thank you so much for being my very, very first guest
I
on
appreciate that.
Cocktails and Conversation. Where's your My Haven?
Yes.
Is your My Haven done?
Such a great idea. Such a great idea.
Thank you so much, Chef Dell. Cheers. And until next time, this is your first episode of Cocktails and Conversations by Hosted. Take care.
Bye.